Tiff and the Punisher ready for a stand. Tiff and the Punisher, they won't back down, screaming out loud in every town. Stand against the system that's gone insane, fighting like lions, don't feel no pain. Abolish CPS, their rally cry. No kids for cash, we won't comply. Make parenting great, let's take a stand. Tiff and the Punisher, hand in hand. Voices heard, don't tread on me. Taking back rights, we will be free. Constitution in our veins, breaking these chains and claiming gains. Abolish CPS, their rally cry. No kids for cash, we won't comply. Make parenting great, let's take a stand. Tiff and the Punisher, hand in hand. Stealing kids, they gotta go. Fight the good fight, let everybody know. We'll raise our fists and say aloud, no more silence, join the crowd. Abolish CPS, their rally cry. No kids for cash, we won't comply. Make parenting great, let's take a stand. Tiff and the Punisher, hand in hand. Hand in hand. CPS, stealing kids, they gotta go. Fight the good fight, let everybody know. We'll raise our fists and say aloud, no more silence, join the crowd. Abolish CPS, their rally cry. No kids for cash, we won't comply. Make parenting great, let's take a stand. Tiff and the Punisher, hand in hand. They are taking our kids every day. I shout them in and no one has a thing to say. For those who have been isolated, don't be worried, you have a voice today. So listen up everyone, here is the story. Child Protective Services is real. CPS is what they call it. They want our kids because it fills a lot of people's wallet. We all think it won't be us. We say when they come we will be so tough. It all sounds good when there's no one to take them. But when they come, your voice gets to breaking. Stay calm, step away. CPS ain't taking no one today. We are educated. Stay calm, step away. CPS tricks up your sleeve. You can't do what you're trying to do. We've done our homework. Don't do a damn thing without a warrant. You no longer will steal our kids this way. Tiff and the Punisher have come for the calling. They are giving us the CPS warning. Their voice is loud and clear. We stop losing our kids this year. Tiff wants to fight the entire planet. She is tired of our kids being taken, goddammit. She's been fighting CPS for 30 years, bringing children home from this disgusting mess. The Punisher is screaming out loud, abolish CPS and tear it down. I want all our kids to come back. Look at all those kids' pictures held up like thin tags. Together we are stronger than we need. We will tear down CPS with high speed. We will do so much being together. Birds of a feather flock together. So watch out CPS, here we come. Picking you one by one. We promise to bring back the family and prosecute the caseworkers unhandily. So give us back the kids you have taken. Tiff and the Punisher sending you all on a vacation. The one with bars in the windows, and the only games you play are on Nintendos. Corruption in courts, here we come. We won't stop until it's done. You judges need to learn what you stand for. This is Tiff and the Punisher warrior, and we cry out to all of you out there. We need support for a cause that many don't care. All children are being stolen way too often. So CPS, we plan on doing the stopping. Stop.
Look at Deidre. Deidre already ready for field trip day.
I know she is. I see it.
Yeah, holy smokes. Her fingers must be smoking writing on that thing.
I know. Good God Almighty. Tomorrow's field trip day, 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
Yep. We'll be there. Hopefully I can figure out this damn thing so we can make it work on this channel too. I'll see what I can do today instead of playing it as a rerun. But if not, you guys know how to find us, right? You go and find Vincent Davis's place, and we're over there with Deidre. Type in you're a CPS victim just like me, and you'll find it right away. If we're not here. But I'll work on that. I'll figure it out.
If not, I have StreamYard too. Can we go through StreamYard?
Maybe so. Yeah,
we'll talk after the show.
Yeah,
no, we're not going to talk after the show. We're going to talk tomorrow because my behind is tired.
Yeah, she's been up all night with the kids. She's been having the flu house over there in West Virginia. Hey, I saw that case. So that trafficking case in West Virginia went through, huh? They named it trafficking. Is that what happened over there? Was there a couple that had a kid or something that they were trafficking kids? It was a big deal.
What are you talking about?
You don't even know about it? And you live there?
If you don't knock that shit off.
Let me see here. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. West Virginia. I just had a great video queued up too, but now I'm going to show you this. Because I wanted to talk about kids for cash. Help people, because some people don't know that term, you know?
Yeah. I don't know why not. Oh, because it doesn't affect them.
Oh, whoops. I have Sylvia's thing up here still. Let's see. In Kanawha County, West Virginia. Kanawha. Check this out. Here we go.
Jonathan, on Wednesdays, we go on Vince Davis's show, well, Deidre's show through Vince Davis. So that's our field trip.
Let's see here. So let's do this. Check this out. This is some shit right here.
Nothing that you say would surprise me coming out of West Virginia. They're just like Maine. They're having a lot of issues. They top up there with Maine and I think it's New Hampshire.
Oh, New Hampshire's nice. You know, New Hampshire is run by Vermont now.
What?
New Hampshire is now run by Vermont.
How can one state run another state?
I don't know, but that's what they did. They put a bid out there because at first it was Massachusetts. And then, because here's the thing, is they talk about all this stuff. They're like, oh, let's get rid of family court. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. They're not getting rid of anything. They're just implementing a new program. You know what I mean? So like you get all excited thinking that they're going to do something. And then here comes Vermont, you know, and they come in like New Hampshire got rid of family court. Sure did, because Vermont came in and took over. It's asinine.
And Vermont is where the doctors are calling on the women having babies for the fentanyl that they're feeding them.
There you go. How the corruption wheel turns. Check this out.
The human trafficking, child abuse, and forced labor trial for Sissonville couple Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance continues now tomorrow.
But since there's no court today, Anna Saunders, who's been covering this for us, joins us live in the studio. And Anna, this has been absolutely heartbreaking to watch as more information unfolds. Can you now bring us up to speed on all of the major developments that we know from the court so far?
Well, Peyton, Gina, this trial now heads into week 2, and the state has still not rested its complex case, as we have heard from neighbors, police, experts, and now we're to the point where we are hearing from the children victims. But we do want to warn you, some of the footage we've seen in court so far is difficult to watch.
It's been 4 days of emotional testimony and hard-to-watch evidence, all leading up to one of the victims, the oldest child, taking the stand on Friday as she detailed years of abuse from Whitefeather and Lance, taking us all the way to the moment she and her brother were found locked in that Sissonville shed in October of 2023.
Oh, I remember that.
But it's hard to say where this situation would be today had it not been for the first 5 people who took the stand on Tuesday, the Sissonville neighbors and a home health worker. They immediately noticed in May of 2023 when Whitefeather and Lance moved in that something was not right and began calling CPS and law enforcement about it.
I was afraid that they would move away and those little kids, nobody would be there to help them.
To the neighbors, it was the children's work in the yard and the standing in a line in all weather that seemed inappropriate for their ages. They said the work never came with any kind of play or break, and one of them even confronted Lance about it, which he denied, saying that they did play. And then when the neighbors began suspecting that 2 of them were locked in a shed, it was this October 2nd, 2023 call to the non-emergency line from home health worker Candace Hilbert that brought police to the shed.
He had 2 kids locked in an outbuilding. They've been in there for days.
And then the jury heard from police officers involved, from the deputy who did the initial check and helped break down the locked shed door to lead investigator Lieutenant Anna Pyle with the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office, who walked us through 5 days of camera footage of the children. Lance and Whitefeather kept motion-activated Arlo cameras on the children, one in the shed on the 14-year-old boy and 16-year-old girl, and one in a room upstairs with no bed, only a tarp floor that stayed on the 9-year-old girl and 11-year-old boy. The video showed a daily routine of waking up early and being forced to stand with hands on head, unable to change or shower, receiving only peanut butter sandwiches to eat before going back to bed on the floor. In the shed, the teens used a camper toilet, holding a sheet up for each other to shield the other from the camera. Lieutenant Pyle said she first began hearing about this in August before the shed discovery, but testified could never quite get a hold of a CPS worker to follow up.
There was a contact made with the worker once, but we just
there was no further contact to coordinate going and making a visit to the residence together.
The jury saw days of video the Arlo camera saved, including the moments deputies busted in the door on the shed on October 2nd. The children were turned over to Child Protective Services, and when Lance and Whitefeather got back with 2 of the children that night, they were later arrested. But that was just the beginning of their charges and the investigation. On Friday, the jury got an inside look at Whitefeather's cell phone. This included text messages between she and Lance where they referred to the kids as monkeys and pigs. Often Lance would describe physical punishment where he said he, quote, knocked one of them. We saw one text where Lance said, quote, somebody didn't say thank you, and his sandwiches disappeared. We also saw more video from Whitefeather's phone from their time in Washington that also showed yelling and physical abuse from Lance. A finance expert from the West Virginia Fusion Center, Alyssa Ledbetter, also took the stand on Friday. She broke down the adoption payments Whitefeather and Lance received from Minnesota. She said in total of what they analyzed from 2019 to 2023, the two received about $318,000 in adoption support payments, but she testified this didn't tell the whole story.
Well, the assistance began in June of 2018, and I only had from June of 2019 to November of 2023, so altogether we're missing about 18 months.
All of this leading up to the most harrowing testimony so far on Friday afternoon from someone who lived it. We are not allowed to film or record the victims who will testify in this case, but were in the room as the teen girl, now 18, but 16 at the time, shared what her life was like both in Washington State and in Sissonville. She said life progressively got worse with Whitefeather and Lance once they moved to the ranch in Washington in 2019. This is when the outdoor labor began, she said, and the physical punishments that included hits from a PVC pipe. While under a child services investigation there in Washington, eventually they moved to Sissonville, but she did not know why. She talked about how CBS was called soon after they arrived in West Virginia, and she detailed a visit from a worker who stayed on the porch and talked to them through the screen door. The teen testified she was not honest with CPS because Lance could hear her from where she was standing. Eventually, she and her teen brother, who has several mental health disorders, were locked in a shed in August of 2023. She said she went without a shower for 2 months and never changed clothes. She went from sleeping on a mattress to the floor with a sleeping bag. Her brother slept on the concrete floor with only cardboard at his head. She said she was forced to be his babysitter, but testified he was never the dangerous, violent kid that Lance and Whitefeather made him out to be. She recalled the use of physical violence, pepper spray, and racial slurs from Lance and Whitefeather. She recalled also being scared when police arrived at the shed, worried that she would say something to upset Whitefeather. Some of her more emotional moments came during cross-examination by Whitefeather's attorney, Mark Plants. At one point, he referred to Whitefeather as her mother, and she quickly corrected him. He questioned why some of her interviews before this contradicted what she said on the stand, but when Tuck asked her why she felt comfortable telling the truth now, she said, because I know I won't have to go back to that.
Tomorrow morning, court is expected to get going around 8:30. 2 more of the children are set to testify, and then it will be the defense's turn to present their cases. Live in the studio, Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News.
Thanks so much for watching.
So what do I think about that one, huh?
But foster parents are better.
Right. That's wonderful, isn't it? Imagine that.
But foster parents are better.
Mm-hmm. That's what they say. And there's story after story after story of that out there. Story after story after story after story after story. You just do a search on that stuff. That's what you come up with.
See, this is why the child, even if unless it's sexual abuse, okay, we don't approve of that. I don't approve of any abuse. But the child fares so much better staying with the parent inside the home. These children, just like that, the national thing said, they are 600 more times likely to be murdered, abused, raped, all that stuff in foster home. They always should leave the children with the parent.
Yep.
Oh my God. I do remember that now. But when it first broke, it said all 5 of these black children were living in the shed. And my heart went out to them because, all my kids are biracial.
Yep.
All my grandkids are biracial. I wish I thought it. Let's just put it this way. They wouldn't have to worry about seeing a judge.
Yeah, right. You'd be the judge, jury, and everything else right there.
Because I tell people, I retired in 1994. I will come out of retirement for mine.
Mm-hmm. Here's the updated video right here.
Okay. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Drinking. All right. The parents found guilty.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Jeannie K. Whitefeather, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking of a minor child. We, the jury, find the defendant, Donald Ray Lance, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking of a minor child.
Well, first tonight, a historic verdict after a more than 2-week-long trial. The couple accused of forced labor and child abuse of their adopted black children has now learned their fate from a jury.
Now, this was a split verdict, meaning it was not a straight guilty or not guilty for both the defendants, Donald Lance and his wife, Jeannie Whitefeather.
Yeah, let's take a look at really all of those counts. So what we know, Whitefeather was found guilty of all 19 counts against her. You can see them right here on your screen. Human trafficking, civil rights violation, forced labor. The jury did find that Lance was not guilty of 4 civil rights violations that they deemed Whitefeather was guilty of. And when it came to child abuse, there were more charges for Whitefeather because of an incident involving spraying the adopted children with bear spray, which Lance was not charged with.
Anna Saunders has been following this case for us all along. She has reaction tonight from attorneys on both sides on this historic trial and verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Jeannie K. Whitefeather, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking. We, the jury, find the defendant, Donald Ray Lance, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking.
For the first time in West Virginia history, human trafficking charges and now convictions handed down to both Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance. Kanawha County Assistant Prosecutors Chris Kravaniak and Madison Tugg, who worked this case, say this is something that has never happened before at the state level.
First time the human trafficking statutes have been charged in West Virginia, we believe. And the civil rights violations aren't charged very often in West Virginia. They're tough cases to prove, and we appreciate the help we got from everybody on the team and also the office.
Whitefeather and Lance not visibly showing much emotion in the courtroom as prosecutors say Whitefeather now faces up to 215 years in prison. Lance looking at a max of 140.
I think they're upset, right? I mean, but they understand that the process, that the jury heard all the evidence. I think it's fair to say they are upset, but they look forward to continuing with the criminal process. There's a sentencing, there's an appeal process that they look forward to. And like I said, it's understandable that they're upset, but they also understand that, they had their day in court.
This case all stemming from the October 2023 discovery of 2 of their adopted black teens locked in a shed in Sissonville, about 5 months after they moved here from Washington State. Investigators later uncovered more evidence, including videos, pictures, text messages, that the jury got to see that it was not just the teens, but also their adopted 11-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter victimized too. The home surveillance videos from cameras Whitefeather and Lance kept on the kids, showing the 5 days leading up to the shed rescue, where the kids would be forced to stand all day, sleep on the floor, take no baths, only allowed to eat peanut butter sandwiches. 2 months before they were locked away, they could be seen by neighbors working and standing in the yard at all hours. Once the neighbors started sounding the alarm, the kids spent most of their time inside, too, in the shed. But perhaps the most compelling part of the trial was when 3 of the children victims testified in this case against Whitefeather and Lance, detailing years of abuse, neglect, racial comments, and isolation.
It's really hard for an adult to take the stand and testify against a stranger. I can't imagine the courage it took for a child to take the stand and testify against someone who, at one point in their life, they considered a parent.
In a rare move, both Whitefeather and Lance testified in their own defenses in this case, denying the allegations against them. But for the jury, this was not enough, as they found Whitefeather guilty on all of her charges and Lance found guilty on all of his except for the civil rights violation.
When Mr. Lance testified, he communicated through his verbal and his nonverbal cues that it made clear to the jury that he had a good relationship with the children, and race never really came in his mind when making any decisions.
The jury deliberated for 8 hours on Wednesday after sitting through more than 2 weeks of trial and thousands of files of evidence, ultimately returning what the prosecution was seeking: justice for the kids.
These cases mean a lot to us. We take a lot of this personally. This is our community, and these are the children of our community. And so if we're not going to fight for them, then who will?
The 2 will be sentenced by Judge Mary Claire Akers in March. In Kanawha County, Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News.
There it is. So doesn't that scare you, though, that the jury was a split decision? That scare you that the jury, they couldn't even get a majority decision? Like those, I'm just watching those clips right there alone is enough to tell you that hang those people. The jury's going to really sit there and say that there's not enough evidence or there wasn't enough of this or that to make that decision. That's scary. That's very, very scary.
Yeah. My concern with that, well, first of all, their appeals are going nowhere. Nobody's going to hear their appeal. Their appeals are all going to be denied. What's scary about that, and this is when I think people need to not mind their business. If they were my neighbors, not only would I wouldn't have called CPS, I would have called the police, but those children would have been in my home when the police got there.
Right. Somehow would figure out a way to grab a hold of them. I mean, that's just asking. And then the fact that lieutenant said that they contacted CPS and there was to no avail, no one came out. This could have been over months prior.
And you know what's even more sickening? These people got over $300,000 for these children.
With 18 months unaccounted for.
Right. That's what they know. Over $300,000.
Yeah, that money went right to the kids too, right?
Right.
Right.
And I think it was the dad's attorney or the foster dad's attorney said, oh, well, he had a good relationship with them. Yeah. Really? He did? Yeah, but he was calling them monkeys and pigs and God only knows what else.
Mm-hmm.
So that $300,000+ that they gave that family, the state now needs to pay for their psychiatric care till the day they die.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do something, They have to do something.
Absolutely horrendous.
And then doesn't it scare you too that that's the first time in West Virginia that they brought these charges up? The first time. I mean, this stuff isn't
West
new.
Virginia.
Yeah, this stuff isn't new. They didn't just invent this stuff.
And I hope that all five of those children sue. Where'd they come from? Washington State? Missouri?
Yeah, Washington State, yeah.
They sue that state for letting these people take them and adopt them.
Yep. Get them all back together. Make sure they're all together. I mean, what do you
That
think?
shit breaks my heart.
Yeah, what do you think they do? Do these kids stay in the system? Because here's the thing, and I tell people this all the time. Just because, like when they spend their time in their cases, they're like, oh, well, this is going on in a foster home. And I tell them, don't focus on that because you're not going to get your kids back. That's not just because your kids are being abused in the foster system. Don't leave your course of where your action is in your courtroom stuff. Because just because there's abuse there doesn't mean that they're going to give them back.
They're going to move them.
Right, they're going to move them. So don't focus on that. Even though as hard as it is and everything else, you got to stay your course. You got to focus on the prize. You got to focus on whatever bullshit they've told you that you got to jump through, and focus on your fight with the CPS, not what's going on with the kids, because it's not going to make a difference. And before you know it, you spend all this time wasted on fighting them because there's abuse going on and you know about it in the foster home, and then it's your TPR hearing and you've done nothing for yourself, because you've stayed focused on this stuff. And then
when my kids were in foster care, my oldest and my oldest daughter and my son, this woman punched my daughter in the nose, broke her nose, and then tried to drown her. She went to school. This woman punched my daughter in the face and left a bruise on her face. CPS actually went in and closed that foster home, moved them to their dads. Guess what happened to the foster family that did this? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I never, ever abuse my kids, ever.
Yep. Unbelievable. But let's keep taking them out of, these good homes that they're somewhat good homes and in even good homes, like ours and stuff. And let's take them out. And let's put them in a foster care system where this is what's going on. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. And I guarantee you that this is going off way more than what people even know or can even fathom. Find me one foster kid that says that they enjoyed their experience, when they were growing up as a foster child.
Yeah, right.
You won't find, there's very few and far between that you'll find that says, oh, wow, thank you for taking me out of there and, saving my life. You don't ever get that from these kids. Because they're not thankful for being there. That's why. Man.
That shit is crazy. And I hope that they put them in general population.
Oh, yeah.
Because what I know for a fact, because I've been to the prison, is they don't like people that hurt children.
No.
Not even the women.
No, that's their biggest pet peeve.
Yes.
That's crazy. I just thought we should air that and show this, what was going on. Because at least there was some sort of justice done, right? They found them guilty and they're facing 200 something years. Which obviously that's a death sentence to them. So kudos for the state for that.
Kudos to West Virginia, but shame on Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure that they pulled those kids out of a halfway decent home.
Mm-hmm, I'm sure they did. That seems to be their typical MO, right? That's it. Let's go get these kids. Man. Oh, it's just so irritating and so mind-boggling and so make you pissed off,
It makes you just want to go beat everybody up.
And if you've been TPR'd, you won't even have privy to this information. This is something that you'll get just like we did. And you got to go to the news stations and check things and all of that. You can't just assume it. And it's just disgusting. I can't believe it. Cannot believe it. Yeah, you're right, Deidre. If those neighbors didn't mind their own business. But how long had the neighbors even been calling before they finally showed up? Thank God for the sheriff lady that came.
They said they started calling. They were there 5 months after the first month they were there. 4 months.
The CPS is at my door within 12 hours.
And here's the thing. that just proved what we've been saying the whole time. They do not remove the children that are being abused. They only remove the children that can be adopted out.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, there's some more news clips, guys, out there on YouTube about that case. I think the sentencing is on there. Yeah, we should watch them and get the sentencing if it's on there. Pretty sure it is. They must take the air right out of them. I hope so. Let's see. Do they have it on here?
And you know what?
I don't
Call
know.
me biased, but those children should have been in a black foster home or an interracial foster home. They should have never been given to an all-white couple. They don't know the culture. They don't know the lifestyle. They don't know anything about that.
Right. They just threw them in, and here they are, go sit in a shed. Can you imagine that's your day as you're just standing up in a shed, your hands on your head? I mean, at least let these poor dudes just lay down and sleep their way through their, 18 years. I would think that would be a cool thing that they'd want to do too,
There was a movie, I can't remember the name of it, but Christy Alley played the foster mom. And they were taking in all these kids. Her sons were raping these girls. The husband was raping them.
Jesus.
It was based on a true story. Well, the oldest girl got pregnant by the son through rape.
Oh, God.
She made it out. She went to the authorities. Nobody believed her. She finally found somebody to believe her. They raided the house. This woman, the Christy Alley, put a hit on this girl so she wouldn't testify. At the end, they got life sentences. So just look how long ago that was. That movie came out in the 90s.
Right. Nothing has changed.
Right.
Dang. Trying to find these here. That's probably the bit.
Now I might have to go in here before I go to sleep and watch something funny, because if I don't, I'm gonna dream about them kids and I'll probably be fighting in my sleep.
Oh, your poor husband. Jesus. Oh.
Well.
Here. Where the hell?
Oh, I sent you an article that RFK has appointed the Arizona person as the child welfare coordinator, but I can't pull it up because my phone just died.
Oh.
I forgot his name, but we can talk about it another day.
Right. It's pretty plain and simple to see, that this was just a horrible, horrible, horrible situation. And they weren't there to be concerned to fix those foster kids. They were there just for a paycheck.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, they're getting how much for a kid, did they say? Did you catch that at the beginning?
No, I just know that it was over $300,000 from 2019 to October of 2023.
Okay, so then we had people moving on and these, all kinds of things there. Man.
So that's 5 years worth of. That's 5 years. So, but remember, they're missing 18 months.
Right. Where are you?
It looks like they were getting $60,000 a year for these kids.
Jesus, times 4. It's 240,000.
Sickening.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
All right. I'm tired. Darren's tired. We go on a field trip tomorrow. With Deidre.
I got it. Boom. This is good. I can't get that screen down.
What is it?
This is the sentencing.
Oh, they already got sentenced?
Yeah, they were sentenced in March.
Oh, well, I want to see that before I go to bed.
Yeah. Where is it? Sentence right there.
Instead of apologizing today, because of you refused to accept responsibility throughout the trial and still here today, which makes my job a lot easier. And instead of apologizing today, because you never have said you're sorry, but what you did do was put on one of the most reprehensible, narcissistic defenses that I have ever seen in my years of trial work. And may God have mercy on your souls, because this court will not. Please stand.
Blistering words from Judge Mary Claire Akers as Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance were sentenced to decades in prison today, answering to their historic convictions last month of human trafficking and forced labor.
Now, this was a case that stemmed from the October 2023 discovery of two teens locked in a shed in Sissonville and revealed years of abuse and neglect of 4 of their adopted Black children. Whitefeather was sentenced to a maximum of 215 years for human trafficking, forced child labor, civil rights violations, and child abuse and neglect. Her husband, Lance, was sentenced to 160 years max for similar charges. He was found not guilty on the civil rights violations and had fewer child abuse charges than Whitefeather. This was the first time in state history that human trafficking charges were ever brought on the state level.
Prosecutors were able to prove to a jury that Whitefeather and Lance brought 5 adopted Black children to Sissonville in May of 2023 from Washington State, made them do manual labor, and neglected and abused them with physical punishment and a lack of basic necessities. This all while receiving adoption payments from the state of Minnesota. Kanawha County prosecutors holding a press conference this afternoon after securing the max sentence they were seeking.
I am so grateful for the opportunity to work with the children in this case. They are so wonderful, so smart, so funny. They are going to do amazing things in this world, and I'm so grateful to be a part of getting some semblance of justice for them after.
Whitefeather and Lance have also been ordered to pay $280,000 each in restitution to the children.
And when Judge Mary Claire Akers handed down the sentence, it came with scathing remarks as she blasted Whitefeather and Lance for their treatment of the children and their inability to take responsibility.
Yes, and Anna Saunders, she joins us live now. And Anna, I mean, you were in that courtroom. What was it like when she handed down that sentence?
Well, Peyton, Gina, scathing is the right word for it. And it wasn't just Judge Akers who made her feelings known. The children victims in this case were there and faced Whitefeather and Lance. Once again, the oldest teen girl looked at Whitefeather and said, "I want you to know that you are a monster."
You brought these children to West Virginia, a place that I know is almost heaven, and you put them in hell. This court will now put you in yours. And may God have mercy on your souls, because this court will not. Please stand.
After presiding over 3 weeks of their trial, Judge Mary Claire Akers did not hold back when she had her chance to address Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance before handing down the maximum sentence possible on all of their 31 counts. But before she did that, the kids in this case, the 4 victims and even the 5th child who was considered the favorite, all gave impact statements, both spoken and by letter.
And while they don't bear physical scars, It is exactly right what said, and the state said, that they will bear the psychological scars of what was done to them by you, Jeannie Whitefeather, and you, Donald Lance, for the rest of their lives.
The children, who we did not film, all detailed the years of abuse and labor and what impact it has had on them today, both psychologically and emotionally. The oldest teen girl even asked the judge if Whitefeather and Lance could be forced to stand with their hands on their heads throughout the hearing, similar to how Whitefeather and Lance would have the kids stand all day when they lived in Sissonville. The judge denied that request, noting the irony that it would be considered cruel and unusual for her to ask the defendants to do that in court, even though it was done to the kids in their home. Judge Akers instead opted to keep the pictures of them up as they spoke.
They all said today that they're still afraid of what will happen to them if they upset someone.
The kids all talked about how their lives are better now, but they will never be the same. At one point, the teen girl looked at Whitefeather and said, "You are the actual definition of a monster," and said that they were not just physically abused, but full out tortured. When given the chance to address the court, typically a time for apologies, Lance only said that he loved the children. Whitefeather said that she'd made mistakes, but never did anything to intentionally hurt them.
And instead of apologizing today, because you never have said you're sorry, even though, Miss Whitefeather, you say you made some mistakes, but you're not sorry for them. And Mr. Lance, I didn't hear you apologize either when you had the opportunity. But what you did do was put on one of the most reprehensible, narcissistic defenses that I have ever seen in my years of trial work.
Defense attorney Mark Plants, who represents Whitefeather, said throughout the trial and even now she still denies any criminal responsibility.
My client's side of the story hasn't changed. It really has been that they did the best they could under the circumstances and they didn't intentionally harm anybody. So I'm not surprised that they spoke their hearts, even though a lot of people disagree with it. That's their story, and that's what they've told.
The children also thanked everyone who got them out of their situation, the neighbors, the deputies, the prosecutors, and now the judge. Judge Akers, in her remarks, also commending the Sissonville neighbors who repeatedly reported Whitefeather and Lance in Sissonville for months before their arrest. She called that the one good thing in this case.
But the good in this is the people that took action here in the state of West Virginia. The good in this is that now these children are West Virginia's children and not your children.
Now, both Whitefeather and Lance brought forward motions for new trials today. Those were denied. Whitefeather's attorney Mark Plants did indicate today that they will be appealing their convictions. Live in the studio, Anna Saunders.
Well, at least that judge got it right.
Yeah.
So there's goodness in that. It's good to know 250 years. Woo!
Well, I know those kids will never see that 200 and X amount of thousands of dollars from each one of them, 283,000 each. They'll never see that money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you would hope that they at least get $3 a month for the rest of their life or something. But that's more like torture to them too. You know, like, what are you going to do? Just jangle them along for the rest of their lives for these short little tiny payments? It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. Just as why does the CPS get punished for taking so long to get action? Exactly. That's exactly it. There should be a full-on investigation to these services, why it took them so long to get there after knowing that they've been contacted multiple times by different agencies, by different neighbors. I would love to find out how many calls total CPS got about that, but we'll tell you why. Damaged kids. You know, like, that's it. They're no more good to this community or to the CPS people, because now these are abused children. They're really abused, and no one wants to adopt an abused child. Unfortunately, that's, you know, they want a perfect little angel that, you know, never had any sort of issues, that they can just like add water and here comes the family. Yeah. Except for in this case, it's just add a foster child. It's absolutely sickening and disgusting.
Well, I hope there's a lawyer out there that saw this and will help these children sue the state of Washington for whatever for being taken from their parents, and I hope they sue the state of Michigan for paying these people to abuse them.
It's crazy. Absolutely asinine. Disgusting. And how many more cases out there do you think are like this? I'll bet you. So you know how they get 7 million. They get 7 million. Or 6 million, 7 million calls last year. I think it was. And only out of those, there's only like 400,000 or something that they found that were whatever. I'll bet you if you did that reverse number and called on about foster families, I'll bet you those numbers are astronomical.
Yeah. And here's the thing. With those children, when they don't want them anymore, they put them right back in the system.
Yep.
And that's not fair either. So we're traumatizing them by removing them, putting them in dangerous situations because, believe it or not, people, we're paying these fucking idiots to steal our kids. Anyway, so then they're traumatized in foster care, right? So now we're traumatizing them again because now we got to move them again. And the ones that are adopted, the foster parents, I don't have to deal with this shit. You're not my biological child. Puts them right back in the system. So it's a cycle that never stops. And then when they become adults, CPS already has their names and their birth certificates and their socials. So they just wait for them to have children and the cycle starts all over again. It's disgusting.
Yep. Until something gets done. I mean, that was definitely the judge put on a great warning to those that are doing this stuff. That's for sure. She definitely did do that, like saying like this is unacceptable, this is not good, yada yada yada. So the rule like that and stick by it, and they get this 250 years is obviously a life sentence for anybody. But these people got it, and there had been a lot of joy in these kids' hearts, knowing that never again will these monsters, as she called them, touch them again. But that's got to be one of their fears, like these monsters here are going to come, like whatever, haunt them or whatever. Like it's got a lot of work to do mentally with these kids, a lot.
Well, the upside to this is it doesn't matter how many appeals they have; they're all going to be denied.
Right.
There's so much evidence against them, and that evidence will stay there until all their appeals are exhausted.
Yeah.
I highly doubt that they're going to make it to any appeal.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope there's an accident or something. So, I don't know. This is just a good indication that they've got this system all wrong. And they're just stealing kids to steal kids. It's freaking asinine. Oh God, it makes me so angry. I drank that 5-hour energy drink. Now I get to be running around angry. Perfect. Wide awake and angry. Just the way we like it. No, Deidre, a lot of people say that when they get their kids back, they're out of here. And there's a lot of truth to that too for people that are getting their kids back. They get them back, they're out of here. They don't want CPS people to come in and touch their families again, like be involved in their lives. That's if they even somehow reunify, it's a vicious cycle. And now these kids will end up in jail or on health, some sort of Medicare or whatever, health something, because their mental capacity is just fried. How do you even work with someone that's been put through such torment? It's got to be difficult as sin.
I don't even think that there's enough therapy in this world that can help those kids right now.
Right? Okay, we'll do that.
Yes, Deidre, I will watch Nate Jackson before I go to bed. I'm going to turn him on now because I'm telling you, it's not going to take long. I had a very rough night.
Sure did. I don't know how you do it some days.
That makes two of us.
Yeah, Jesus. I opened my eyes and I'm like, oh God, I did it. You know, I made it. Oh man. Oh yeah. So everybody else too, watch. Like Deidre saying, what's his name? Nate Jackson.
Yeah, he's on YouTube. She said he's funny. He's a comedian. She said I'm gonna watch him as soon as we're done.
All right. Well, we better get to you then.
Yeah.
You won't be
Tomorrow
able to...
night, 8:00. If you can't find us, go to Are You a Victim of CPS Like Me? And we'll be on Deidre's show.
Yes, we will. Field trip day. Trying to see, there it is. Found it. I found it.
Darren, make sure you take a nap earlier in the day.
Oh, I always have a nap. Whenever I sit down, I have a nap.
Yeah, I hear you. I wish I could.
No, you don't. Damn narcolepsy. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see y'all tomorrow night on Field Trip, 8:00. Don't forget, an hour later. We have a CPS attorney scheduled there, so here we go. Get ready for your questions, people. Have a good night. Don't forget, guys, tonight, CPS Victims Under Justice. I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but it'll be something, so make sure you join us there, too. Have a good night, everybody. Yep, go get them kids to bed. And as always, go Brandon!
We all want to stand for our freedom, but nobody wants to do it today. Can't you see time is a waste and the Constitution we love is fading? Make no tread on the reality, or the USA will be the next casualty. We are here for freedom, those we will protect. Unite for the values we cherish, or watch everything perish. Our men have fought for our freedoms, many women have too. Their blood spilled upon the ground, with the news many frown. They paid a price that many won't pay. Now we are letting the cause fade away. The graves are being neglected by the actions of so many deceptors. The freedoms they fought for in every world war, conflict or mission. So many stayed behind, signing petitions. While those awake dying were there to protect them. It's time to wake up in the USA. We are all slipping away into the darkness we once ran from. It's getting worse every day. Now they are taking our children more and more every day. No soldier ever fought for taking our children away. This is not why they bled for our freedom. They didn't die for some cheap pay. We all need to come together, fight this corruption, and it starts today. We need to wake up America, go back to parades, remember true family values, laugh again as children play. These are the things we fought for, 200 years strong, but now we're losing all of this. Don't tread on me does exist. So rise up and be strong. We don't have to go along. We need to push back now, like our forefathers did. It's time to bring back the way it was, when families lived together, all that mattered was love. It's not always easy to take back what they have grabbed. With all of us together we can do it, two loving children and mom and dad. This is our country, it's called USA. So many have fallen, say don't tread on me today. It's time to wake up in the USA. We are all slipping away into the darkness we once ran from. We once ran from. It's getting worse every day. Now they are country, it's called